All right, so basically what I want to be talking about in this Zoom, I have a lot of, let me ask one more question. How many coaches here run the Princeton offense? 95% of my audience are Princeton offense coaches. So if you received the email about this clinic, chances are you guys are a Princeton offense coach. Charles, you're going to it this year. Bill, you run Princeton. John, you run Princeton. Coach Gamora, yes, you do. Awesome. You're still running it. Good. Coach Tenchka, you guys are all in Princeton. Coach, actually, once we're done today, Scott, give me a call or shoot me a text. I'll hop on the phone with you. I got a couple questions for you. Coach Buckner, proud Princeton Kool-Aid drinker. Yeah, I love it. Coach Cicelo, John, yes, Princeton zone. Coach Lilly, you're going to be trying to run the zone offense this year. Okay, very good. Awesome. Keep that coming. James, read and react for the last 15 years. Awesome. A lot of coaches are read and react guys, so I certainly respect the read and react and the dribble drive and the triangle offense. Those are a lot of my favorites. So, all right, very cool. So, basically what I want to do here, just started the season. Awesome. Okay. What I want to do here real quick is I want to bring in, let's see here. I want to bring in a document if I can. Let's cancel that. Broadcast system audio, install the, oh, okay, there we go. Nope, install later. There we go. Bring me back. There we go. Okay. So let's see here. Go documents. There we go. Awesome. So the matchup zone. So I've just got a couple slides. Is that backwards on your screen? Is that backwards on everyone's screen? If it is, that's going to bother me because it's definitely backwards on my screen. Kyle, it's good on your screen? Okay, awesome. It's good? Okay, good. On my Zoom screen is completely backwards. On my video software is perfect. All right, you guys are like, who is this amateur running these Zoom calls? All right, so the matchup zone. So my story with the matchup zone is as a player, I played under a system. I played under Mike Krzyzewski's Duke pressure man-to-man defensive system. So we were always a no middle drive pressure man-to-man team when I played. When I began coaching, and I became coaching right out of high school, maybe one season off. So I was 19 years old when I started coaching. I started volunteering, and for the next 7 years, my mentor was also a no middle drive, old school Dick Bennett coach. Gabriel, I'm trying to mute everyone, but I'm not having that. I'm not able to find that option. So if you guys are able to, if you guys can look on your computer, if you guys can mute yourself, that would be fantastic. Because so far I am unable to do that on my end. And I really apologize for that, but I cannot find that. Usually I can click participants, the arrow, and then a mute option, but it is not here. Coach Ricardo, if you could mute yourself, that'd be great. So my experience on the defensive end has always been on the man-to-man side. It's always been pressure man-to-man. It's always been no middle drive man-to-man until I became a head coach. And actually, when I became a head coach, the first 2 seasons, I stayed with what I knew. No middle drive, deny everything, help outside the lane, scramble and rotate, speed teams up. Do not let them run anything. That's all I knew for the first 13 years of my playing and coaching career. That's all I knew. And then what I started to realize, the better and better competition we played, it did not matter how much I pressured, how much we denied, how much disruption we tried to do. We could not beat the best teams on our schedule. And that's when we started making adjustments. So we started going from the matchups, from our pressure man-to-man, and then we started to toy with the pack line man-to-man, and then we started to toy with just like a straight-up man-to-man, where we're trying to keep some of the pressure But we wanted to, instead of saying no middle drive, we wanted to square up and say no straight line drive. So we experimented with a little bit of that. And then the 4th year of my head coaching stint, we decided, hey, look, let's put in this matchup zone. This matchup zone is completely different from anything that no one runs this matchup zone on our schedule. So let's give this a try. So that's exactly what we did. So and we're going to come back to the board here in a second, but basically, what is the matchup zone? I had to define this for myself so I understood it. So the matchup zone, it's a defense anchored on man-to-man principles using zone mechanics to negotiate the off-ball actions. This is how I define the matchup zone. And also, hey, real quick in the chat, how many of you are, or let me ask, who have you watched run matchup zone? Who do you model your matchup zone after? Because I model the way that when I was first introduced to the matchup zone was basically by watching the Air Force Academy, watching Princeton, watching Northwestern when Bill Carmody was there, watching Richmond in the early years when Chris Mooney at Richmond. So Coach Richards know nothing about it. Awesome. Don Kelby. So yeah. So put your influences in there. So where you guys learned this? So I was learning this being a Princeton coach. I would watch mostly Princeton teams. I didn't watch a lot of basketball, but the basketball I watched was I followed the teams that ran the offense that I wanted to run and the defense that I wanted to run. And so most of the matchup zone that I was introduced to was from those programs. And when I flew to the Air Force Academy to learn what they were doing offensively, subconsciously, I think I picked up some of the stuff that they were doing defensively well because they weren't doing their man-to-man. They were running their matchup when I saw them. So that is what the matchup is. It's based on man-to-man principles using zone mechanics to negotiate the off-ball actions. And if you ever watch a Princeton offense team that runs a matchup zone and you listen to the announcers on TV will be like, well, sometimes they're man, sometimes they're zone. It's the best description to get. Sometimes they follow their guy and sometimes they don't. And when you talk to other coaches, those are the kind of the things that come up with. And that's what I love the beauty of that, because that makes it feel like the coaches who are trying to figure this matchup zone out, they're getting a little bit confused. They're trying to figure are they in man or are they in zone? Then you hear the announcers talk about that all the time. So why run the matchup? So this is why I did it. This is a different defense. Okay? On the court, it slows player decision making down. And off the court, it adds preparation time for coaches. So players are trying to figure this out on the court, like, hey, are they running a man or are they running a zone? So that's going to dictate what offense they run. Do we run a man-to-man offense or a zone offense, coach? That's what's happening. Is that player open or not open? Are they in a one pass away? Are they in a zone or are they? And the players on the court, the offensive players, are trying to figure out what you're doing. And if they have to think, and this is the big thing with me with our Princeton teams, is we don't want our players making. We want them making quick, confident decisions. So it's black or white. So what we tell our players when we're running our offense is we'll say, hey, they're open or not open. And if we have to think if they're open, are they open or not open? If we have to think, I was like, oh, maybe they are, maybe they're not. When we have to think, we make slower decisions. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make the offensive players think, are they in man? Are they in zone? What are they doing? And for coaches that don't see matchup zones very often, because you don't see matchup zones very often, that takes extra prep time. Say, do we run? Because if I'm going up against a team that runs a good matchup, preparing for the game, I'm thinking, do we run our zone offense against it? Do we run our man offense against it? Man, we're going to have to practice our zone offense against. Can we even mimic the matchup zone in our practice? Because we really don't know exactly what they're doing. So maybe let's work on our zone offense, and let's work on our man. And then they get in the game and we worked on this for 45 minutes in practice, and that's not working. So now we got to game plan and come up with a backup plan in the huddle and in the locker room at halftime. So it adds a lot of preparation time. And if they're preparing for me, right, they're not preparing themselves. Is the way that I have to. This is the way I always feel as a coach. If my coaching opponent has to prepare for me, and prepare for my team as taking away what they have to do to prepare their players to actually be ready. Okay, so how do we begin installing the matchup zone? Okay, and this is kind of where the controversy lies, and especially for me. Let's see. Okay, so now I think I'm gonna pop back over here. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so now I'm back. So the controversy lies of how to actually install this, because this is where I got stuck. The first time I tried to run this, I had it all broken down. Hey, this is what we're gonna do, and then we got on the court. We actually started to install the defense. And it was either on the first day or the second day I was installing it. I'm like, this does not look like what I want. This is extremely frustrating. Let's scrap this and let's. All right, fellas. I had to say, look, this isn't working. This doesn't look good. This is on me. My bad. All right, forget about it. Let's go back to our man-to-man stuff. And I think that they're kind of like, I think I got a little bit of trust with them on that, because they're like, you could just see the looks in their eyes that they weren't picking it up, and I wasn't explaining it well. So it was very important. For me, I'm already a slow understander of the game. The game comes very slow to me as a player because I got a late start. I didn't start playing until the 8th grade. So as a player, the game came slow to me. As a coach, the game came slow to me. So for me, point of emphasis is I really emphasize the details, and I was not explaining it well. I want my players to understand the game better than I ever did, and I wasn't accomplishing that. So we scrapped it in November, and it wasn't until Christmas break that we actually came back to it. And then I figured it out. And this is when we actually, because I was changing everything up so that the matchup zone could stand alone. And then the way that we were installing it, the actions that we were trying to practice against, it just wasn't working. And this is what we did to figure it out. So we always install our man-to-man first. And I reflected back about when I was at the Air Force Academy watching them practice. We sat in the coaches' room, and all the coaches were in there, and they were watching a pack line defense. It was a DVD from Championship Productions. I can't remember which one it was. It was either Dick Bennett or somebody. They were doing a matchup zone, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to guard. We want to guard the post like they guard the post in this pack line defense." And when they went out and they did their matchup zone work, I could see it's like, well, they're pulling in man-to-man principles for what they're doing with their matchup. Their matchup isn't like a standalone 2-3 defense or a standalone 3-2 defense. All right, it was actually based on what they were doing with their man-to-man. And that's when it started to click for me. So what we did, and once we got that, it actually streamlined the rest of the installation process, because I realized that, hey, we don't want to make this look like a zone. We want to make this look like a man. So what we did was, and I tell you what, before I actually get to how we install, I want to talk about the mechanics of it a little bit. But we approached it as, hey, we're going to make it look like a man-to-man. All right, and we have to go based on our man-to-man principles. So when we're matched up, let's just say, like most teams, like, okay, so I'm a Princeton coach, so let's come down with a 2-guard front. What I like about this is, first of all, we talked about this briefly for a second, is I like it when the offense, they think, we don't want them to know if we're in man or zone. And I think I kind of said that, but in actuality, when we come down like this, they look at us like, oh, they're in man. It looks like they're matched up. Okay, we're matched up here, we're matched up here, we're matched up here. Everyone's kind of, everyone in our stance, and we're all pointing together, we're all matched up in our man-to-man. So the beauty about this is it doesn't matter if you run a pressure man-to-man, no middle drive, if you run a pack line man-to-man where you're saying no baseline drive, or if you're just guarding them straight up, okay, no matter which one of those that you run, we're going to now model our matchup zone off of this. So what I started doing is we actually started switching back and forth from our man-to-man to our matchup, and then we just completely lost defenses. We completely lost offenses. They just were like, what do we run? Are we running our zone offense, or are we running our man offense? And once they started running our zone, then we would go back to our man, and we'd start following them through. Once they started running their man-to-man offense, we would go matchup. So we would always have something for them and always something ready for them. So anyway, so the way that we model this choosing whatever man-to-man style that you want to run. And the reason that we have to do this is we have to choose this first. And hopefully, again, I am a pre-COVID coach. And again, when I coached and as an assistant and then as a head coach, 90% of the time we would see man-to-man. Okay, it was very rare that we saw zone. And it was even more rare that we would ever see a matchup. So we had our zone philosophy down, or our man-to-man philosophy down. But let's just say that we're going to run a pack line man-to-man defense, and that's how we're going to model our matchup zone. So we're coming down man-to-man. We're in a pack line. So this defender here is actually going to be over here on the midline. This defender here is actually going to be on the midline. The big reason for this is we need to know, once the ball gets to a wing, how are we going to guard the ball? Because everyone on the ball is responsible for a man. Okay, and that's the big difference between a man and a zone. In man-to-man, we are responsible for a single player. And that's why my mentor loved man-to-man. He would never go zone. He's like, Johnny, I want to know whose fault it is. When we make a mistake as a defense, I want to know whose fault it is. And if it's a zone, I can't blame one kid. I can't get on that one kid. And what he's trying to say is not to be mean at that kid, but what he was trying to say is like, I want to know where our defense broke down. And our man-to-man, I can tell if a kid was late on rotation or if we weren't on the midline. We could find out which kid made the mistake, where did our man-to-man defense break down, and how do we fix that. And it was harder to do that in a zone because zones, no one's really responsible for an individual player. We're responsible for an area. And if they're in our area, we got them. But there's a lot of gray areas in zone. And that's why as an offensive coach, I love seeing zone because I exploit those gray areas. But in a man-to-man, everyone's responsible for a player. The decision you have to make is how are you going to guard the ball when it's on the wing? Once it's on the wing, are we going to be straight up, where I would say no straight line drives? Are we going to be no middle drive, forcing baseline only? And this is where most pressure defenses would come in, philosophies would come in. Or are we saying we're more pack line, traditional pack line, where we're saying no baseline drive. Force them to the middle. Okay? Whichever one of these you choose, okay, is perfectly fine. You just need to make that decision. And then the next thing is whether you're straight up, no middle, or no baseline, the next thing that's going to do is that's going to dictate how you guard the low post. If you're saying no baseline, no middle drive, you're either going to full front the low post or deny on the low side. Okay, if you were to play, or if you play straight behind, or if you're 3/4 on the high side and you're forcing baseline, what happens is they drive baseline, they pin here, and now you have to wait on this bottom defender, which you can do. I did that for a year, and I'm like, it's not as efficient as what I could have made it, but it's a decision we made. And then the adjustment that we did after that was, actually when I was here, we started denying on the low side, and that actually solved our baseline drive problems. But when we switched the matchup, we were actually more in a pack line strategy. So figure out what strategy you're running. Are you going to pressure? Are you going to contain? Are you going to play straight up? And then are you going to do that through a no middle drive, a no baseline drive, or a straight up from the wing position? And then that's going to dictate how you guard the post. And then now we can start dictating our matchup. So if the ball's on the wing, and let's just go pack line because pack line is very popular today. We're going to deny a high side on the 3/4 high side on the low post. And then one pass away, we're in the pack line. And then we're on the midline on our help side. So this is what it looks like in man-to-man. But if this is what they do in their offense, this is also what it would look like in our matchup zone. Everyone is responsible for a player, okay, initially. All right? And then what's going to happen is, so let's start back over here. So if they start in a 2-guard front, we are matched up like it's a 2-guard front. So if they come down in a 1-guard front, what a lot of teams do that run matchup zones is they'll sit here in like a 2-3. Okay, they'll run a 2-3 matchup, or you'll see a 1-2-2 matchup. But they always start with a 1-2-2, or they always start with a 2-3. So if I want my opponent to run their man-to-man offense against my matchup zone because I want to confuse the heck out of them, I don't want to come down here and show zone, and then they're going to start running their zone offense. Okay, and I almost feel like this defense is more effective against the man-to-man offense than it is the zone offense. Because it's just more, why are they switching that? They'll say, hey, they're running a switching man-to-man. Well, this is not a switching man-to-man. It's completely separate from that as well. So what we do here is when we come down in an odd front, and this is very easy. When we come down the court, we're always pointing. I've got ball, I've got this guy, I've got that guy, and we're all matching up. So this guy would slide over here and take the ball. This one would be in a pack line here. This one would be in a pack line here. And if they're lined up with two bigs, then we're on the line up the line, on the line up the line. Okay, and now the matchup zone looks like a 1-2-2. We're just aligning the exact same way that they're lining up. If they come down here like this, then we're going to match up like this. If this 5-man comes over here like this, then we're gonna match up. It's going to look like right here in the middle. Then we'll match up like this. It looks like we're in a man-to-man defense. Okay. Yeah, and I see a comment there. That's how it's popping over. Say versus teams with a 1-guard front, you ran a 1-1-3 matchup. Yeah, and teams would run a 1-1-3 matchup. But when I see that alignment, I'm like, okay, they're in a zone, because usually what happens is that first pass, that second defender, boom, sprints over there. But so it's a little bit different than that. But I totally get that. So yeah, some teams will run a 2-3 matchup, a 1-2-2 matchup, a 1-1-3 matchup, and my feeling on those is they all look like a zone. So the offense is going to run the zone offense. I want them to run their man-to-man offense. And one, because I think it's going to confuse them. Two, how often when you go scout another team do you actually get to see them run the zone offense they're going to run against your zone defense? It's very rare. Unless you're like only a 2-3 team, I would go scout a team 3 or 4 times. I would never, ever see them run a zone offense. So I was like, well, if we were going to zone them, I would have no idea what to prepare for. You have to be ready for everything. And on the flip side, I would go scout a team, and all I saw them run was their man offense for the 3 times in the film that I saw them, the 1 or 2 films. All they ran was their man-to-man offense. We had that down. Their man-to-man defense. We had that down. And then when they showed up against us, boom, zone right off the jump ball. I've seen them play 5 times, man-to-man, every single minute of every single game, and then they show up against us and they zone us because they didn't want to guard our Princeton. But how do you prepare for that? Okay, so we want to try to prepare for what we're going to see, and most of the time for me, it was we're going to see someone's man-to-man offense. So I want them to think that we're running a man-to-man defense. That's what we want them to see. So let's come back here and even back up. So let's come back down here with an even guard front and talk about what we do next. So in the man-to-man, we know what we're doing with our man-to-man, our foundation. So we've already done all of our shell work. I probably would not install the matchup zone until like week 3 because it's going to take us at least 2 weeks. I would say now, again, in Ohio, we have 4 weeks of practice for our first game. I know a lot of coaches across the country only have 2 weeks of practice before their first official game. So you might have, if you want this ready by game 1, it just depends on how much you can actually teach and install before your first game. But for me, I would like to do, our man-to-man has to be solid before we install the matchup zone. That's the way that works for me, and that's what I like to do. So we have that solid foundation. Because when they start driving, when they start kicking, there's going to be a lot of man-to-man on the helps and the rotations and the scrambles and the closeouts. So now the ball's on the wing, and we're going to go pack line. We'll say no baseline drive. We're forcing it to the middle. That way we're going to force this player, once this first pass is made, we're going to jump to the ball. And there's 2 ways that I've seen this done. And I've done both ways. Because I've toyed with both ways. And if I wanted to show zone, I'd do it one way. If I wanted for it to look like man, we'd do it another way. And this is actually an adjustment that I would make going backwards, but it worked well for us. Some teams will come here. It also depends on how you're guarding the low post. Right here, we're guarding 3/4 on the high side. Some coaches will play directly behind the 5 because your 5-man maybe is not very mobile, very foul prone, or very tall, and you just want to play back here and play solid. So what we'll do is when we jump to the ball into this split, just like a pack line, because if we stay up here, they drive middle. So the idea of the pack line is get to the pack. These 2 are getting on the midline. Again, high school defense, 1 foot in this side of the box, 1 foot on this side of the box. 1 foot help side, one foot weak side. And I do this with our Princeton offense coaches. The difference between high school, college, and NBA is 1 to 3-point line is a bigger factor than anyone takes into account. The second of all is their skill level, And because of the three-point line and because of the skill level as it goes higher, college defenses play here on the help side. And then professional players are here on the help side. They even have that rule where they're not allowed inside the paint for 3 seconds. They have a 3-second defensive call. So I always want to point that out because we don't want our high school defense to start giving more space in here than what they need. So most good high school defenses are going to be on the midline. This is what we teach. I will make one little adjustment once we get to a certain point in it. But the first thing that we do is this first player, one pass away, is they are actually going to guard both. They're going to help on the low post player, and they're also going to help on the three-point line. And you can do this 2 ways. On that first pass, we can actually turn and play what I call bad defense, which is what I always refer to when we see like a 1-3-1 or a 1-2, and they're playing in passing lanes like this, is I'm going to put my back to the player that I'm responsible for, and I can't see them, and just trying to make them throw over top of me. So you can do that in this instance because once the ball gets thrown here, I'm not really as concerned with this player as long as if they're here, I'm going to be concerned. But if they start coming over here, I won't be concerned. So we'll actually turn sideways like this, where my left hand now is helping on the post, especially if you play behind like this. What we did is we squared up and played straight. The way that I did it is we played straight up, and I 3/4 on the low side. And you're like, well, coach, you're leaving the 5-man wide open over the middle. Well, what happened for us, and this is kind of going down a little bit of a rabbit hole, is, again, I'm a pressure defense, deny everything. That's my mentality. That's what I know. That's what I like the best. And we went to the pack line for a brief little bit. I think we did it actually did we do it over the summer? I can't remember. I hate, I shouldn't say hate. Hate is a very bad word. I loathe this one aspect of the pack line is the offense can do whatever they want. And in Ohio, there's no shot clock, so they can run offense as long as they can or as long as they want. And I can't get out and deny. There's not a whole lot I can do to turn them over. But what I started to notice when we deny, and this is just me pitching, denying the post on the low side, depending on what you're doing. If you're strict pack line, you got to be on the high side. If you either no middle or straight up, you can go on the low side. But once they started feeding it over, not only they're feeding it through this kid's right hand, in our matchup, this kid's left hand, and then we would bring this kid over a step and this one over this way. And they would start trying to feed the post, and we would get more deflections in here than what we would get out here when we were denying. And this ended up being, and I don't have film for you today, but there's something I'm going to talk about. I went back and started watching some of my games from 2011, 2012 when we actually ran this on the court. And we got so many deflections and steals out of this matchup. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. It's so much better than the pack line. So I will always go to this before I go straight up pack line, unless you have the athletes to run a pressure pack line, but which we didn't do. So anyway, one pass away, as I'm kind of going down some rabbit holes here. One pass away, we're in the split. You can either, again, square up and play bad defense where your shoulders are facing the sideline, and your left hand's guarding here, your right hand's guarding the three-point line here. All right, the second way you do it is you can do it straight the same way you would run your man-to-man. Is once they make that pass, you just jump to the ball, get in the split, you're in that pistol stance, I can see left, got you here. Okay? That is as far as the extent as your man-to-man positioning is going to go. Because typically what happens next is, okay, once they throw the ball to the wing, now they're going to enter their offense. Now they're going to start running their offense. And here comes that big well, what if Friday night we're playing against Princeton, Saturday night we're playing against Dribble Drive, next Tuesday we're playing against Flex, next Friday we're playing against this 3-around-2 weave offense, circle offense, or something like that, and you're preparing for different offenses. So how do we teach these kids to guard different actions? And that's the process, and that's why I like installing my man-to-man first. Because when you install your man-to-man first and you have all the fundamentals and say, okay, here we have all of our shell stuff down, and then we teach you how to get through down screens and how do we get through back screens and how do we guard flare screens and how do we guard ball screens. We do all of that man-to-man. We're fighting through, exchange. We're not switching. We're not doing anything like that. But we have a good a foundation of guarding all of these different actions. And then when I plan when we do our practice plans or when we go over our scouting report, planning the practice before that game, my defensive sessions always, and we were always between 35 and 40 or 45 minutes, depending on how much we had to do. We would adjust our shell we would go 5-on-5, always against what we saw in the scouting reports. And that's what we would do against our man-to-man. Foreshadowing a little bit, we will also do that with our matchup zone once our matchup zone is installed. Okay? So your man-to-man, you do all of your shell work, your 4-on-4 shell, and you work on how to guard all of these different down screens, back screens, cutting through all of that, chasing them through, stopping at the midline. I'm not going to go through all of that, but I mean, if in your man-to-man, if you were to pass and cut through and just fill like this player is going to have to sprint. This one's going to have to sprint to the pack. This one's going to have to step up. And this one's going to have to stop at the midline and not chase them outside. And that's what a man-to-man rotation would look like. And we go through that whole process with our man-to-man shell defense. When we go to our matchup, and one of my big mistakes is I was skipping steps. I was like, we already have our man-to-man in. We can just jump right to this and they're going to get it. Except, hey guys, we're going to switch it when they do this. We're going to switch players. We're going to exchange here, and when they screen here, we're just going to come together, feet together. We're going to switch it, pop back, and for whatever reason, it just wasn't working out because I was skipping steps. You almost have to, once you have your man-to-man in and it's solid and they understand the shell defense and how to negotiate all these screens, how to get through, just how to know where the midline is, how to stop at the midline, how to make sure that they're always in the pack line, they always close out well, they're always guarding the wing the right way, they're always guarding the post the right way. You have to do that with your man-to-man. And now when you move to your matchup, they make the pass, everyone's in their man-to-man position. And now the first off-ball action, this is the first thing that I would explain once we're going matchup. The first thing I explain is, what do we do one pass away? Are you going to stay in a pistol stance or are you going to play bad defense? I really don't care. If I were to go back, I would probably stay in the pistol because it looks man-to-man. When you turn and play bad defense sideways, it looks zone. So if you actually prefer to guard their zone offense, I would show that, and they're like, oh, it looks like they're in some kind of zone, so let's run our zone offense. Maybe that's easier for you, or maybe one particular night that's easier for you because for whatever kind of matchup reasons, or your personnel versus their personnel. But if you want to run against their man-to-man, I kind of like that. So that's the first thing we teach. The second thing we teach is interchanges. We're going to teach these in the most basic movements the most basic and most common movements that we see. And we're going to start at a very beginner level, and we're going to keep progressing to more and more complicated off-ball actions. Because everything on ball is man-to-man. My responsibility is man-to-man. I'm guarding this player like I'm guarding them in my man-to-man. You're either up and you're pressuring them, or you're giving a little bit of cushion so that they just don't catch it and rip and drive right away. Whatever your man-to-man philosophy is. Same thing about guarding the post. And then what happens is when there is off-ball action, this is where the matchup zone mechanics start to come in. So I heard Jeff Bezdelik, when he was at Air Force, say this. They tell their players three things. They have to talk it, they have to touch it, and then they have to pass it off. They talk it first, they touch it second, then they pass it off. And communication in this defense, if your kids do not buy into talking, this matchup is 10 times harder than your man-to-man. And when I'm doing clinics or when I'm talking to players, and towards the end of my coaching stint, before I stepped away a little bit, we would always, as a player and as a young coach, it was always, hey, when you're on the ball, when you're doing a shell defense, it's ball, 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 ball. If you're one pass away, deny, 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 deny. And if you're on the midline, if you're two pass away, it's help, 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 help. And that's what we would just bark and yell at, just that one word. And then as I got older, I'm like, okay, I kind of get that. It gets the intensity up. It gets them in the right spots. It gets them at least talking. But they're not really providing a whole lot of valuable information to their teammates. So what I emphasize, when you're on the ball, it's ball, ball, ball. It's ball, ball, ball. I mean, you are barking at them. You're bothering them. You're trying to, get in their line of vision. You're trying to get in their head a little bit just with your pressure. But everyone else needs to be communicating what's going on. And I like to communicate from the bottom up because these guys can see everything. It's kind of like your center fielder in baseball, softball. It's kind of like your catcher. They can see the whole field. Shortstop can't see what's behind them. You know, everyone has their own point of view. Like when you're one pass away, the only two players this player can see is the player with the ball and their player. That's it. They can't see if a back screen's coming. They can't see. They don't know where anything behind them is. They don't know if the 5-man moved out to the corner. They have no. They have no point of view of that. They can't see it. So we have to communicate from the bottom up. But the one thing that this player can do, one pass away, say, hey, I've got you right. I got you right. Hey, I got you left. I got you left. We'll say those words. Hey, I'm on your right side. I'm on your right side. Hey, I'm on your left. Watch it here. Watch it here. And sometimes they could just hear the voice that they're there and say, okay, I know I got someone on my right, so I can really kind of get into them a little bit more. I know my teammates there. I can trust them. I hear them. I know they're there. And if we're on the help side, it's like this player is now talking to the one on top of him. Hey, man. Hey, Jim, I'm right here. I'm right behind you. I got your help on the right side. And this one here is talking to the 5-man. Hey, man, you can press a little bit. I got you in the middle. And we're actually saying valuable words to each other. So when the 1-man is here and their man starts cutting, something that I might say is that, hey, cutter. He's coming. Because this is my responsibility. Okay, in the matchup zone. I'm matched up with this player. Matched up. Everyone's matched up with somebody. This is my responsibility. So I have to, when they're cutting, hey, cutter. And as long as they go through, if no one talks to me or if no one picks them up, and this is kind of where that are they in zone or are they in man thing comes from. Because if there's a miscommunication and no one picks them up, it would be completely reasonable for me as a coach if this kid just followed them through. I'm like, well, no one talks, so he followed them through. He did his job. That's his responsibility. So what we do is we talk it, we touch it, and we pass it off. And this is the mechanics of how that works. So, hey, cutter. And this one, if this one's not talking up, that first thing happens. They just go through it, and that exchange gets very clunky, or two guys go with one, defense breaks down. If we talk it, hey, cutter, I'm going down, and then this one here is like, hey, I got you, I'm coming, hey, I'm here. Something like that, something along the words to let this player knows, hey, I'm right here, I'm ready to receive this exchange. So we talk it, this one say, cutter, this one say, hey, I got you, or this one saying, hey, help, and this one say, hey, I got your help. And when they come together, we're going to come together and touch. Because just like when we screen, anytime, the most dangerous thing for you to do, and I talked to this about my Princeton coaches who run the point series that do all kinds of slipping or switching. If we're running Princeton and teams are switching that split screen, I want to get in there and, well, first I want to curl, but any point in time the screener can screen and then slip it, I always want to slip it. That's the best way to beat a switch. So we always want to make sure that we are disciplined, talking, touching. That doesn't mean I'm reaching over here and we're trying to get fingertips. We want to almost come foot to foot or my hand on your shoulder, my hand on your hip as a teammate so that they cannot, as they're cutting, just decide to try to split you two. Because once they try to split you two, you'll see this in a little bit, there's no one to pass it off to, or now they're getting into scoring position. We want to keep them out of that. So we talk it. We touch it, and if we have to come this deep, we will. And then once the pass off is made, boom, I got him. Back up. Okay, I got it. And now we can back up to this split. Now, if we're in a pack line defense, we're saying no baseline drive. I am now where I was abandoning the split. Maybe this drive could happen, but if this exchange was clean, boom, I can bounce right back there and get right back in that split. And our 5-man, they're still battling down here. And then the 4-man is now talking to the 2. 2-man's like, oh, I got him. And now the 2-man's kind of in one, hey, he's coming. 2-man, I stopped talking to the 1 for a second. I start talking to the 4. Hey, I got one. And we're waiting to see what he's doing. And I'm probably not going to stand like this. I'm probably going to be like this on this side. So I keep wanting him to go away. Whether that's what they do offensively or not, okay, we don't have a scouting report. This is just a general action. As he's coming through, the 4-man's like, hey, let him go. The 4-man's going to come up, hey, let him go. I got him. And that might just be a step up. Hey, I got him. And then the 2-man can stop worrying about this guy and pop back to the midline. And then what happens is the 1-man fills out, and the 4-man does not chase him because we're not in a zone. We're in a man-to-man. Stays on the midline. And for a split second, and I'm slowing this down. Okay, and again, obviously this is very basic, very fundamental, but for your players to understand it, you have to start here. You have to start here, especially high school players. And I would say even some college players. I don't have the experience working with college players, but usually a little higher IQ, but I have worked with college players in camps, and I'm like, the first time I ever done, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm smart enough of a coach to work with college players. And then I went to the clinic, I'm like, oh, this is great. These guys are learning all kinds of stuff, and it worked out great. So for a split second, the one man, we got on ball, matched up. Okay, this one's not matched up with anyone. So basically, all he has to do is one hand helping with the post, one hand guarding the 3-point line, because eventually someone's going to fill the spot. And if no one ever does fill that spot, we'll kind of tell them similar things to like that we would tell our center fielder in a diamond press. Hey, if you're in a diamond press and if you don't see anyone, back up because they're behind you. Okay, so that's something that we'll always kind of tell these guys. Hey, if there's no one there, no one coming, okay, now over your shoulder, see if and start backing up. But what's going to happen? These two right here can guard these three if they stay on the weak side like this. Two can guard three over there. Okay, and we got this kid bottled up. All right, but what happens in the drill as we install it? Right, 2-man's going to fill, 4-man's going to fill, 1-man's going to fill. And what happens is now 3 guys are guarding someone different. Okay, and this is how the zone part of it is more on the off-ball action. The matchup is more on the man-to-man action until they get to a point where they match up again. Okay, now maybe they're running some kind of offense and this player only fills up to here. Maybe they're running low post into point for our Princeton coaches. And we're on the midline here where we're supposed to be, and the 2-man's like, hey, he stopped right there, And where the 1-man maybe was here, hey, I might be saying, hey, back up a step, give me a step. He's stopping here, or maybe we're prepared for this stop at the point instead of coming all the way over to lane line extended, and we'll tell this guy, hey, drop down just one step. Stay in the pack line. We can't abandon the pack line, or now we give this drive. There's no baseline drive. We're forcing middle. So we always have to stay in the pack. So we can either stay here, and I would play defense right to stick this hand out in this lane where maybe I can force this kid to have to step up a little bit. Okay, but I can also, if there was a pass, it's basically so once we get to if they did stop here, the 1-man is basically responsible for the pack and the 2. And then these 2 are now responsible for here, so we're kind of back into a man-to-man alignment again. But what I would do when we're actually installing it, we're going to keep it real simple, just like our shell defense. This will be like our matchup shell. And our 2-man's now going to come over lane line, 4-man's going to fill lane line, and then 1-man's going to fill foul line extended, and then we're back. And what we'll do is we'll just reverse it. One pass. And just like your shell defense, at this point we're doing everything 5-on-5. Everything 5-man. Because we've already gone through all of the pain of the 4-on-4 shell with our man-to-man. Now we're doing everything 5-on-5 because now it's kind of like coaches will say, and this kind of annoys me on the offensive end, teach your players how to play, not plays. But, in my mind, it's like you teach them how to play through the plays. So we have a little bit of structure. So, because we don't all have the high IQ players. I had a very high IQ player come coach with us one year, and he kept telling me that over and over. And it's like, I get it. He's like, just tell me what you want. I was like, we have to teach them some structure because most of these players, actually all of these players, none of them were ever as good as you are as a player. They don't understand the game the way you do. So we have to structure it for them a little bit. Anyway, to get off topic. So everything we're doing is 5-on-5 now because we want them to see the big picture. Okay, there's going to be a lot of problem solving in the matchup zone. It's never going to look perfect. Sometimes there's going to be mix-ups, there's going to be miscommunications, and you're going to see things offensively that they're going to start deviating from structured offenses to try to find holes in this defense. You'll see that happen. So now we're going to, boom, close out, jump to the ball. Step up in the split, step up in the pack. So now in a pack line defense, the ball handler always sees 3. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, if the ball was on the wing, just pack line refresher. It's actually supposed to be like this. So it's 1, 2, 3 are the 3 defenders that they see. Boom, it's here. Jump to the ball, step up. So I got a pack on both sides. And now this is the one time where, depending on the talent level you're playing, if I were coaching girls basketball and maybe just say a mediocre level, I would probably keep this kid on the midline, protect the basket. Okay, the higher level that we play, I might let this kid sneak over here just a little bit. Okay, in a kind of a man-to-man setting. All right, reverse the ball, sprint to help, or sprint to the ball, sprint to, or close out to the pack, jump to the ball in the pack, midline, midline. And again, depending on talent, maybe you stop right there for a second. Maybe split these two 50-50. Ball goes to the wing, right? No baseline drive. Sprint, jump to the ball, jump to the split, sprint to the split, however, or sprint to the pack, whatever terminology you want to use to stop that middle drive. Now we're midline, drop, drop, drop. And this is what our man-to-man would look like on the other side. Okay, 5-man comes across, we chest him, don't let him cut your face. Boom, denying on the high side. And now it looks like exactly what it does on this side as it did on the other. Okay, this is, and it's like, well, Coach, God, that's so simple, but this is how we start to install this offense or this defense. So what we'll do is once the 4-man passes here, they're going to start cutting, and the 2-man is going to be like, hey, cutter, 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 and we're going to go down with them until the 1-man is like, boom, I got him, I got him, I got him, and then we're going to pass him off, and 2's going to bounce back up, and they're going to rotate through. 3-man, hey, I got him, and we're going to touch it again, switch it, and then we're out to the corner, and then we're back into our matchup positions. And then we're going to rotate over, and over. Right? And that's going to be like, say, the first thing that we do. And then that's just a pass and cut and fill. And that's one way that we're going to start repping it. So what's happening is, I mean, how often are you going to see an offense that does this? Pass, cut, fill, pass, cut. You're not going to see that probably ever. Okay, but the important thing is that every defensive player is getting repetition, talking, touching, switching, talking, touching, and I don't like to say switch because I don't want them to get in the mind that this is a switching man-to-man defense. It's not. Okay, but they're going to talk it, they're going to touch it, they're going to pass them, and then boom, everyone bounces back. That's the repetition they're getting. That's what's important. They're getting that repetition. Okay, and now we'll just do this on the next one. So we'll just start back here. We're all lined up exactly where we are here. So I'm just going to progress through what other action, a screening action or a cutting action, can we see that might be common in this matchup? So we're going to throw the ball to the wing now. Instead of cutting through, let's just screen away. Okay, so let's screen away. So on a screen, basically, this 2-man is doing the exact same thing. They're jumping to the ball. They're in the pack. They can either play, again, side defense, where they're, I know I turned sideways and I'm running out of room here, but I can help with the post, okay, if we're playing behind, and I can guard a 3-point line, I can guard in the lane. Or pistol stance, just normal man-to-man pistol stance. So when they set this screen, okay, now if my man leaves the screen, I don't want to go with him exactly like this, because now I leave this big gap open if we're pack line. Now if you're running a different kind of man-to-man, might look a little different for you. So we just kind of adjust on the style of the man-to-man that you want to run. But when they go to screen away, I am now going to be like, I'm dropping to the level of the screener so that if they were to screen and slip, I could get a hand in there. And we'll talk about the screen and slip in a second. But we're going to set a screen, and I'm saying, hey, here he comes, here he comes, here he comes. Screen, and this one actually should see the screen coming. I should not, because if I'm guarding the cutter, they're cutting behind me, I don't know if they're cutting or screening. I can't see that. And if I turn my head to see what they're doing, now I can't see the ball. And that's when we teach our offensive players, hey, when they turn their head, drive. Or when they turn their head, cut, because they can't see you. So it's the receiver, the defender that's the receiver, has to say, hey, screen's coming. And then I got the screen, and they're screening for the next player. And let's just say they V-cut to come off of this. So we're talking it. Now the touch comes here. When the screen actually happens, this is where the touch happens. Okay, if it's a screen, they're coming together like this so that they cannot slip that screen. So now when we V-cut and come off of it, boom, it's boom here. And again, I'm not going to chase them out there like that in a pack line if this is my philosophy, this is my strategy, because again, I've left this middle open to drive. So you have to remind them, and if you've already done your job in your shell defense, they should never chase them up here in your matchup either. It's all the same. So when we negotiate this, boom, you come up there, boom, I go to the pack. And then after the screen, this one pops back out like this, or let's just say after this one, instead of popping back up, because that would be kind of unnatural. They're going to screen and then they're going to roll. Maybe they're going to try to screen a slip, but we got on the inside, so we didn't let them cut our face. Good job. All right, and again, you built that up in your man-to-man. When you did your man-to-man shell, building up your foundation, that's where they learn how to keep them on the backside. And now they go behind you, and after the screen, they start to cut, and they go, hey, cutter, cutter, cutter. Hey, I got him. And they talk it, they touch it, boom, and they pass them off. And then and as soon as they pass them off, it's back into your man-to-man position. Back in your man-to-man roll. Talk it, touch it, pass it, and here you are. Okay? And when this one fills up, I can step up a little bit. This one fills up, and we're never always going to be matched up with the same guy that you're guarding. And I know there's going to be questions about mismatches. I'm going to get to that in a second. If I have time, because you can kind of see how tricky it goes. Now, so pass it. We did all that screen. Now what we'll do is we'll just reverse it around like in our shell. Jump to the pack, sprint and close out. Jump to the pack, sprint to the pack, sprint to the midline, drop to the. Now we can say a little 50-50 here. Hit the wing, boom, drop it down. Now we're all on the midline. Close out, sprint to help. 5-man comes over. Don't let them cut your face. Put them back here. And let's say we're 3/4 on the high side, and then we're back to our man-to-man over there. All right, and that would be the second thing I would do. So we might work on that first just pass, cut, and fill for 10 minutes. And then we might work on this pass and screen away for 10 minutes. And we're just drilling in this talk it, touch it, pass it, talk it, touch it, pass it. Okay, and this is the part that I messed up the first time I tried to install it. We did not go back to the basics. You have to go back to the basics because the off-ball movement is completely new. Oh, it's completely new. Sometimes we were chasing them through. We had 2 guys going 1 all the time because we didn't go back to the basics. And we keep emphasizing this. Hey, we're talking, touching, and passing. Then we get right back into your man-to-man positions. Okay, and then this matchup zone starts to look like a zone. And then they start like, well, should we let's run our zone. And they pull it back out and they back to where they run their zone offense. And if you're trying to slow them down with your matchup, good job. Okay. Let me show you one more, and then I'll talk about a couple situations, and I'll answer some questions, and then I've got one quick thing I want to show you guys if we're working, especially because most coaches here I think are Princeton offense coaches. I do have one thing about the Princeton offense coming up I want to talk about if you guys are interested. All right, so the next one I'll do is say we'll do a stagger screen. So now let's work on a more complicated screen. So we pass it to the wing, jump to the ball, and now let's say we're coming down here. This one's going to come down and we're going to guard a stagger screen. Hey, screener, and cutting down about the elbow. This one's, hey, I got it. And we're going to talk it, we're going to touch it, and then basically everyone's responsible. The 3-man here, the 1-man here, the 1 with the 4, the 2 with the 3, the 4 with the 1, because they've been running stuff around, so we're not guarding the same guy we started with. And now when the screen starts coming up, it's talk it, touch it, pass it. Talk it, touch it, pass it. Talk it, touch it, pass it. And then, again, I don't want to get sucked out here denying because now we leave the middle open because we're in a pack line here. Okay, if you're in a no-middle drive, you're fine. You can get out there, and this is where you can deny in a matchup zone. If you're actually taking away that middle drive and now you're fronting the post, okay, you can really kind of choke them up there. But we want to make sure that we want to be there on the catch. In a pack line, you want to be there on the catch so they can't shoot rhythm threes. Okay, that's the main thing we want to emphasize. So when we come off the screen, boom, they're coming up here with the ball. Boom, we stop here in the pack to keep that middle drive away. And then what happens is, boom, we bounce back. Because once the 3-man screen, they're probably going to slip or roll. And once the 4-man screens, they're going to either slip or roll or pop back out, bounce back out. And then everyone is back in their spots, and then they fill back up, and we can reverse around and do the same thing again. All right, they reverse around, jump, 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 sprint, close out, jump to the pack, sprint to the pack, sprint to help, almost to help because we're just kind of 50-50. If I'm coaching a less skilled team playing against less skilled talent, I might just take that 3 right to the midline right now, especially if their momentum is always swinging it the other way. But sometimes you might get really good players throwing it back. So you just kind of have to, whatever your situation, whatever your philosophy is on that, I'll let you guys decide that. Not a black and white answer. Throw it here, boom, sprint and close out, no baseline drive, sprint to the pack, sprint to help, and then 5-man come across, cut your face, 2-man come down. Let's go ahead and stagger again, and then everyone's talking, touching, switching. Here he comes, screen. Here he comes, and we're dropping, we're dropping, and we're just bouncing up. We're not letting anyone cut in front of our face, not letting anyone slip, and we're just talking, touching, and passing. Instead of freeing top to bottom, it's bottom to top now. And when they come off, boom, I stop in the pack. This one's going to screen and slip. This one's going to screen and roll. Maybe they do one of these. These two, they don't chase them. They just stop in the spots they're at. It does not matter who they're guarding. Okay, and then we just keep progressing. And eventually we'll start throwing in ball screens. We'll do a drill where maybe our 5-man comes out instead of ball screen. We'll start rotating, switching on. We'll teach how we guard our ball screens. We'll teach how to guard our back screen. So maybe we make this pass. And then what I might do is I might put... might run like a flex where we're working on down screens, cross screens, down screens, cross. We'll start run this matchup against the flex. Once we get over foundational stuff and say, well, this is how we guard a flex because we're getting flex screens in, we're getting down screens in. We'll start running back screens off of the flex. We'll start running flare screens. And we'll just start making this more and more complicated one step at a time. Okay, then we have all the foundation down. The exact same way that we would put in our shell defense, we're now doing with our matchup zone. And then I'm going to take this and then I'm going to say, okay, now, we've covered all of the core movements of the 4 round 1. Okay, now let's go through all the core movements of the 3 round 2. So I know this question is going to come up because I want to show you the one instance where when we would not pass them off. There's just 2 ways to do this, and I've seen it done both ways, and I have a way that I like. And I'll let you kind of think. Let's kind of stay with the pack line philosophy. But if they come down with a 3 round 2 set, okay, and I see a couple of questions pop up. I'm going to come back and do questions. Then I'll scroll through and answer any questions that you guys have. On a 3 round 2 set, so we'll do the same thing. Pass to the wing, sprint, deny high side, get to help, get to the midline. And then if these two just interchange, boom, talk. I mean, they really don't have to talk, touch, pass it because of all of the space there, and they're not in a scoring position. But if they were to make this pass and then cut through this way, I'm going to have to talk it, touch it, and the 3-man's going to have to come here and bump them and put them behind me. So hopefully we go like this, and then when this 3 comes and runs this L cut and pops up here to get open, I can stay in my split, stay in my pack, and the 1-man would pop back out, and you're here. The one trick, and you'll see this against a 4 round 1 or a 3 round 2. Maybe you'll see them do this in the normal offense. Maybe this is an adjustment they'll make, is when they start overloading the corner. This is going to be the one tricky spot that you will have to rep. And there's 2 ways to handle it. And I like one way better than the other. I've seen college coaches teach it this way. Again, always keep in perspective, college coaches have players we don't have. They have height. They have, again, it is relative, but again, they have higher IQ players than we will ever have at the high school level as a collective group. When they make this pass the wing, we jump to the split. All right, we jump and guard the ball. We're staying in a pack line philosophy. We're sprinting to help. If they overload the corner, first of all, I want them to go behind me. Okay, and once I get them behind me, because I want to jump the split, when they go, boom, I can turn and bump them. I want them to go behind me. And you can do it 2 ways. As the offense goes behind you, I can either bump and then drop this one down to the split, just like that. And it's a talk it, touch it, switch it. Okay, and actually, I don't mind that too much if I can get hit, boom, hey, overload, hey, drop, or yeah, it's kind of like it's however whatever you want them to say, whatever the terminology is going to be. Boom, I want them to go behind me. If they go in front of me, okay, it's going to be even harder to pass them off. But if he goes behind me like this, I'm going to say, hey, cutter. And I can say, hey, boom, down, drop, you get him. Hey, I got you, drop down. And they drop down to that spot, and then you've successfully negotiated that. I've seen some teams do that. I think I've seen Richmond do something like that. But then when I watched Air Force, I would see them sometimes do this. And this is what I started doing because it was just easier. And the way that I define this with my players is any point in time the ball went to the wing and they played on the weak side. Everything's an easy switch. Okay? And this is where I always reflect back to the announcers on TV saying, sometimes they pass them off, sometimes they follow them through. We don't know why. That's just what they do. And the times that they would follow them through, most of the time is on an overload. So when they go through an overload, and if they cut in front of you, I guess it's not the end of the world, because if there's a low post player here, you might be fine. I still like to be on top if I can. That way I can kind of control the situation. So they go behind me, and if I just follow them through, boom, now I've stopped right here. I'm back in the split, just that easy. We never have to leave the ball, which is something as a high school coach I'm always concerned. I don't ever want to leave the ball. And now we're here on this side. And if this player wants to fill up, and what happens when you see a 3-around 2, it's usually in an overload situation, man-to-man, especially in the women's game, you see a lot of 3-around 2 overload, high-low stuff. So this is something that you're really going to have to talk through. Is like, how are we going to guard this? This is one that we had to work on a lot, and I don't want to go into this because we could spend another half hour just on this action alone. But basically now, hey, if they come all the way to the top here, I'm in the split. If the 3-man stays up, and I stay on the midline. If this one comes up like this, I might have to stick with them one-on-one instead of passing them off to the 3. It just depends on where the 3 is. I might have to stay here. And if that happens, if I'm in a pack line, and if we're kind of in the midline there, but if this one comes up here, I could pass them off, but they're kind of coming behind me. I'm kind of getting in the wrong spot. You could come up here, pass them off like this, and the 3-man stay. And actually, this might actually be better for this, because if they make this pass, it's kind of pick your poison. Who's the better player? Is this the better player, or is this the better player? If this kid can't shoot, this might be okay. But now the 4-man's responsibility is going to be the 3. But you also have to deal with this high-low. So there's a lot of individual battles going over here, and the way that I like to guard this high-low is with this guy. Okay, so if they do this, we're going to pressure the ball now. And when they try to set that high-low, I'm actually going to, this one's got to be 50-50. You got to be like this, reading their shoulders, reading their eyes. And if we have good ball pressure, and we have our guy, and we'll teach them technically on the court, I don't like to front like this with my back on them, especially if I'm outside. I actually like to turn around. I put my guards, I'll show you this here in a second. When our guards roll on bigs, and I'm gonna actually put my chest on the big and my hand right here up in his face, like this. I'm just gonna lean on him the wrong way. And I'm gonna see the ball, I'm gonna lean on him like this, and it actually gets really difficult to feed the post when the guard's guarding like that. And then if they try to throw this high-low, the 1-man can come sneak and get that, and we'll actually train that, because that's one of those actions we have to be concerned about with the 3-around 2. And if they reverse it, boom, we sprint, and we jump the ball, sprint to help, and then everyone's coming over, and then you're basically reloading. And once they get here again, they might overload again. If they overload, hey, I got him, and then we're stepping up, we're stepping over. If the 5-man stays up, and then we just kind of continue on. Okay? All right? So that being said, I've already gone an hour and 10 minutes. Do you guys have any questions? Let me just do the questions first. 'Cause I know that's a lot. So how do you defend overload where there is a high post, low post, wing, corner? Did I just answer that, Tom? I don't know. I didn't even read it, but that's just kind of the direction I go on. Kyle, yeah. So if they overload, if there's no one to pass it off to, I like staying with them. And then when they flash high post, you can either stay with them, and when they flash high post, you can either stay man to man because there's no one to pass them off to, or if you can pass them off, but I don't. If I can actually deny the pass before the high low on the overload. So whoever's flashing high low, if I can actually, I'll deny pack line. You deny everything inside the 3-point line. Everything inside the 3-point line you deny. Once they bounce outside the 3-point line, that's when you kind of give that cushion back. So again, it also kind of depends on what version of man-to-man principles that your foundation is built upon. But you can stay with them, deny them all the way into the 3-point line, and then do that exact thing that I just did with the 3-round 2 with the overload. So Kyle says it is if the ball gets into the post, who digs in the post? Okay. So let me, because we were just doing 3-round 2, let's just do 3-round 2 real quick. Let me match everyone back up. All right, so everyone's matched up. We can see who's guarding who. If the ball goes in the low post, and it depends if it goes in the low post out of a 3-round 2, or if it goes in the low post out of a 4-round 1. I'll kind of show you a little bit of both. And this is always, so let's just say we're pack line. Again, if we're pack line, it's actually very, very difficult to feed the low post against a pack line. But it's going to happen. It's obviously going to happen. Let's just say we got caught behind them. Because really, if you think about it, if you're in the right position, they got through this kid's left hand, this kid's right hand, and then this kid's left hand, denying high side. So you really should cover the post well if you're in a pack line. But it's going to happen. So let's say we get here, and they do feed the low post. Okay? Where do you dig from? Okay? It's really kind of, there's so many different options. Really kind of depending on where do you think they're going to hurt you from. All right? If this is their best player, sometimes if you're a pressure man-to-man team, once they feed the post, we would lock up their outlet. We would just lock this kid up. This kid would go here. We would just deny that kid. That's in our pressure man-to-man. A lot of teams, they'll throw this pass in, and then basically I'm guarding the ball, and then they feed the post, and I'm going to turn sideways, and I'm going to dig. Like I turn sideways, kind of like bad defense, but I can see both. And I'm going to dig here, dig here, dig here, dig here. Just dig. Just make him dribble. And if he dribbles it, boom, I can go get it. Or if he puts it on the ground, I can go get it, attack it. Or he puts it in the dribble and he picks it up one time, then lets my 5-man recover. So you can dig with this one. And then with our post players over here, once the ball is in there, I'm not talking about trapping. That's a whole nother conversation. But this one is the easiest one to trap with. Or you can juke, because what happens if it's 3 around 2, and this one jukes and leaves, you're leaving this kid open for a layup. If this one's out in the perimeter, you have a little bit more room. But again, if he starts sliding in the middle and I'm juking from here, okay, my 2-man's got to realize that. So if the skip goes to the corner, boom, I can close out here and I can scramble here. And we would do that in our regular man-to-man anyway. But I feel like in this situation, I don't want to leave the top guy like this because it's just harder to rotate. It's almost going to be who's the one that this kid's not going to see. I'm always going to be digging from this one. In a pack line, I'm going to be digging like this. And if you're going to dig, it can be just like, it's just juke it back, juke and get back. All right, and how good is that 5-man? If that 5-man's real good, okay, you might have to show a little more. If that 5-man's not that good or just competent, then it's just that juke and get back, we'll make that 5-man go and they'll pick it up. And then we can wall up on them and then, how good are you? Just beat us without fouling. So that's kind of how I would approach that. How do you match up initially versus a 3-out 2-in offense where the 2 posts are at the elbows, the weak side, post flashes, ball side, block on a point guard entry past the wing. So let's see. And again, once you get into the situational stuff, you can have all kinds of options. So a 3 around 2, so a 1-4 high. So that's a 1-4 high. So you got, so Eric says, 3 around 2 offense where the 2 posts are at the elbow. So usually what happens if it's 3 around 2, they'll start down here. And then they'll both flash up. Okay, the way you worded that, it sounds like they start up here. So it's kind of like a 1-4 high. We're man-to-man. And then I think I see where you're going with. The weak side post flashes. So usually what happens at a 1-4 high, the guard's going to choose one side of this. So if I choose this side, okay, we're guarding man-to-man, we're in a pack line, I'm going to kind of deny on here, is this weak side guard is going to have to start dropping down. This is where 1-4 high offense is kind of getting in trouble. And the weak side post pops up. Now, if they pop up here, it's fine because I'm not going to go pressure. I'll deny it inside the 3-point line, but I want to make sure I'm 50-50 and still in this. Now, until there's no place that we've done any kind of exchanges yet, so it kind of depends on what they do afterwards. It's all man-to-man. We're all matched up at this point, okay, until there's a pass. If the pass goes here, now I square up, now I jump. It's all man-to-man principles in the split, sprint to help, okay, and now it depends on what they do. Are they setting a back screen? Are they setting a high? A lot of times this is a high flex, okay, and if this is a high flex, and this is where we are defensively, which is once the ball's over here, we should be working back to our man-to-man principles, right, and if they set a high flex over like this, I should bump him, put him behind me, and the 2-man should actually be there ready to meet him. If they run a back screen, it's talk it, touch it, switch it, okay, if they run a back screen and then if they run a ball screen after that, a ball screen as where's my, who's on offense? Red's on offense, Blue's on defense. If they're running a ball screen, it's going to be talk it, touch it, come together so he can't slip, switch it. And I got my 3 on there, 5 on the perimeter, that's great. Okay, sometimes you're going to have that situation where there's going to be a big or little screen. So I know this is coming as well. So actually, I kind of got a little bit mixed up there. Need a little bit more hands to do this very well. Now, ball is coming this way. Let's say we kicked it over here in a pack line. We jumped towards the ball. Now I've got a 3-man guarding the 5. Okay, and the 5-man is going to go set a ball screen here. And let's say these are 2 guards. It's not like a traditional power forward. Let's say they ball screen and roll here. So we ball screen and roll. We talk it. We touch it. We switch it. And now they got a mismatch. They got a 5-man rolling on a guard. And they reverse up. And let's just say this is kind of what they're doing. If they interchange over here, we talk it, we touch it. We don't have to touch it as much on that, but we are switching that interchange on the weak side. I'm just throwing stuff out there so you can kind of see how this works. Then what happens if this is 6-6 on 5-10? What do you do? Well, what we teach our guards to do is we teach them to get around front. We do not sit on their hips with our hands like this. You can. I like my guards actually like this, leaning on the big. Okay, just leaning on the big the wrong way where I can see the ball, boom, like this, like this, like this. That's kind of how and it's kind of like, because here I'm in a more athletic position like this. If I'm like sitting here, I can't jump very well like that. But here, I'm more athletic. I can turn, I can slide. I think that's more, I can feel them all the time. I give that 5-man no separation so that if they do lob it up, the 5-man can't jump to get it, but I can. Okay, so that's kind of how we would guard them. And then we got this matchup, and if there's a real big mixed match, we don't get him, he gets around us like this. That's 6-6 on 5-10. Okay, we're just going to corral the troops a little bit. 1 man's going to come over. 5-man really can't just go and just leave this kid wide open. Okay, if we're in a pack line, if this is what we're looking at, it's something like this. They've created this mismatch. If our 5-man just leaves, they just throw it here and shoot the 3. So you can't just leave one pass away. You have to kind of wait until there's an opportunity to exchange again. But what we're doing is 2 man's going to pack it. Hey, help, 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 help. Mismatch. You know, whatever you're yelling. And your 1 man's, I'm going to creep. 1 man's the furthest guy away. I'm going to creep in here a little bit more. Yeah, throw it down here. Throw it down here. Come on, throw it down here. And we're going to kind of play that cat and mouse. And if they throw it, boom, my 1 man's ready for it. We're just trained to help our team. Okay, and that also comes from your man-to-man, but you really have to emphasize this as well. Your 2-man, 1 pass away, I can't commit here, just throw it here and they shoot that shot. Okay, but it's usually to come from the defender that's the furthest away. Okay, how will you play against horns? It's kind of, I should say, depends on what they're doing out of horns. If they're setting ball screens, we talk it, touch it, switch it, kind of like that ball screen situation. It kind of goes into a little bit more of a rabbit hole, probably outside the scope of what we're doing here. Again, we could be here for 3 hours talking about all of the individual situation stuff. Wing back cuts the basket. Yeah, so there's so many different situations. What I would say, let me get to the next part. I think I can help you guys out with the next part because it seems like there's a lot of really good questions, a lot of good questions. Eric just sent me a PDF. I'm going to download this, but I'm going to look at that in a second. Okay, are you guys getting good information out of this? Give me a little bit of feedback in the comments. Is this giving clarity to maybe a very confusing or difficult to understand or difficult to learn defense? Yeah, Eric, I did download that, so I'll look at that. So here's what I'm going to do. I want to pop back to, so how many again are Princeton offense coaches? So if you guys have been following me for a while, I've been doing coaching clinics for Princeton offense. So and I'm not abandoning the matchup. I'm still going to talk matchup here. Because in our last coaching clinic, how many of you have been to a coaching clinic? Either streamed it live or attended in person? Gabriel, good info, familiar with the matchup. Okay, so this is good. Okay, good. And again, sometimes coach, every now and then it's kind of like a parent walking in the room. It's like, you don't know what you're doing. That is, every now and then I'll get a coach. That's so simple. It's like, you could have explained all of that in 5 minutes. Well, sometimes we overcomplicate things and we forget the fundamentals. Okay, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to simplify a complicated defense, but that can also be effective. That it's also not going to take you 2 years to install. So, Coach Ricardo, you've been to the online Princeton Clinic? Awesome. Okay, so here's the thing. So I did send out an email a month or so ago. I had some changes in my personal life happen. I moved out of a house into an apartment, so I've got this new studio, or this new area. I brought the board with me, so we're good to go. My apartment looks like a coach's house right now. I'm trying to do all the fun decor stuff to make it look like an adult lives here. But in all of that change in my life, I was not able to secure and promote a clinic for this fall. That's kind of bad because usually I start promoting a clinic 2 or 3 months ahead of time. I have not done that yet. I cannot travel that far in September just because now we have different living situations and passing my son back and forth and all of that. There is a weekend available in September that I can host a clinic nearby the Central Ohio area. I am talking to 2 coaches. One of them, their assistant coach, is on the Zoom or was on the Zoom earlier. And if we can coordinate, it's very possible that I'll be doing a clinic in maybe depends if we have to talk about the weekend first. But there's possible I'll be doing a clinic mid to late September here in Ohio, or worst case, first or second week of October. That would be, I would hate to go that far because seasons are really starting around then, but we're going to be trying to do a Princeton Offense clinic then. Okay, if you guys are interested in that, raise your hand. See, Coach James, so talk, touch, pass off seems like the bottom line with the man. Yeah, absolutely. All that off-ball action with this matchup. Okay, so here's the thing. So that's the first scenario. Let me pop over here. Let me pull up my slides again. Okay. So that's scenario 1. We have a coaching clinic. It's either going to be in about 3 weeks or it's going to be first, second week of October. I am going to talk about the matchup zone in this clinic. That will be something that I will do, that I record. We actually talked about the matchup zone in the last spring's clinic when we went to Orange County. We spent maybe an hour and a half on defense. We actually put our whole man-to-man in, and then we started talking about what the adjustments we would make with the matchup zone. And I'm going to do that again in a little bit more detail. And it would be at the Princeton Offense Clinic. So I know if you're here and you're not a Princeton Offense coach, might not be worth just to come watch a couple hours of. I mean, it might be worth to come watch a couple hours of the matchup zone. But then the other 10 hours are going to be Princeton Offense. But I have a couple solutions. So one, how many of you would be interested in me completing, because I was putting together a program. It's not done. I've been recording audios. I actually have, I went into my garage, in my storage unit, and I found all of my hard drives. Here, I'll just pull some of them up. So these are some of my hard drives. But all of my hard drives from when I was coaching at the high school level, and that's not plugged in, I don't think. Someone unplug it. These are, I've got 2 more. These are all my hard drives with all of my games, all of my basketball stuff. It's all basketball. They're all full. It's incredible. And I went back and I found all of the games that I was running the matchup zone defense with. And I'm actually going to include that with a program. How many of you guys would be interested in that? Do you have any info from your last Princeton clinic? Yeah, so I'm going to get there. So for whatever reason, if we cannot coordinate a time, a date, if we cannot confirm that we can get players for a clinic, what I was going to do instead was we've done 3 coaching clinics and I've done 3 installation camps. And at each one of these camps and clinics, I record with 3, 4, or 5 cameras. The last 2 clinics, I have recorded them in 4K. So super, super high definition. That is all unseen footage. The coaches that have replay access only have the 1 core camera. They don't have all the other ones. If I cannot do an in-person clinic, the next goal was to do a replay, a live replay over a full weekend of all of my favorite moments from the previous 2 or 3 clinics. So you guys are interested in that? Okay, so let me just kind of show you real quick, and I think I can do this in 5 or 10 minutes because I know I've kept you on so much longer. And there will be a replay if anyone has to go early. But let me pop my slides back up, and let me find out where we were in the slides. Okay, so here's for my Princeton Offense coaches. Okay, so I was originally planning on selling a course on the matchup zone today. I was not able to complete that to my satisfaction to actually give that to you right now. I would say it's about half done. but life's busy, and probably the timing is not very right. So everything that was going to be inside this matchup zone program was my man-to-man foundations, how to run the pressure, the pack, the straight up. Because here's the thing: if you run a no middle drive man, you can run that as a pressure man-to-man, a containment man-to-man, or a straight up man-to-man. If you run a pack line defense, a pack line man-to-man, you can run that as a pressures defense, or you can run it as a containment defense, or as you can so you can break that down any of those ways. So I'm going to do a full training on all of that, all of the matchup zone mechanics, installing the core matchup zone, kind of what we started here, how we game plan from scouting reports with the matchup zone and man-to-man, how we prepare for zone offenses with our matchup zone, and then I was going to break down as much game film as I possibly can, which I think there's probably about 10 to 12 games that I have of us running this defense, and then break down some college influences that I had with the matchup zone. And then on top of that, the on-court clinic video from California Clinic and possibly this future clinic was all going to be involved in this like one-off program. Okay, so what I decided was to just kind of put this on the back burner for a second because we might be doing something. We might be doing a clinic in a couple weeks. Okay, the timing just wasn't quite right. So what's going on in the moment? Okay, we're working on this clinic. Okay, it's not set in stone. I've kind of done this already. These clinics, if you've never participated, this is 100% me. I don't bring in 10 coaches to talk about 10 different topics. This is 100% me, 12 to 14 hours over 2 days, sometimes 2.5 days. And the regular day of ticket price for these clinics is $247. Early bird special prices for these clinics were not $247, but usually around $147 to $197. Because of everything going on, whether or not if this is a live clinic or a replay clinic, one or the other, and I'll have this ironed down more so as we figure things out. It's not gonna be $247, not $197, not $97. These are the two options. I've already kind of gone over this. We're either have a clinic in person or a replay clinic, which I have a brand new computer, which I talked about before here. And now I actually have a computer with the power that can edit 4K videos. I did not have that before. It's kind of one of the reasons why I didn't do all of that. I've been recording all these clinics, 4 cameras, sometimes 5. Now we've got 2 4K cameras. So here's the deal. If you would like to join this clinic later in September, okay, or get the produced clinic replays, which is what I'll be working on as soon as I can confirm whether or not this is going to happen. Okay, not for $247 regular price, not for the $147 early bird special. The actual selling price might be $97, but not right now. Just $47, and that's it to come to this next clinic. Okay, it's short notice. Usually I have 3 months to promote these. This might be 2 weeks, 4 weeks before the actual clinic actually happens. So for right now, just the coaches who are actually watching this, because eventually this is going to change. Eventually the ticket cost probably going to be $97. It's only $47, but there's one catch. It's the only way to get the ticket at this price is to actually join the Princeton Offense Inner Circle. This is my monthly membership with my Princeton Offense. Okay, and just a little bit more of this. Everything that comes with the Inner Circle, if you haven't seen me do this, it's my 8-week workshop. It's like 50 plus hours on the whiteboard, all Princeton Offense. 50 hours on the whiteboard, film room sessions, breakout sessions, playbooks, practice plans, breakdowns, all of that. If you're already a member, Charles, you get to come to the clinic for free. If you're a current member, before today, you get to come to the clinic for free. If you joined in June, if you joined in July, you get to come to this clinic for free. Absolutely, good question. Okay. Also part of the Inner Circle is what we call the on-court passport. This is the 3 installation camps that I've done so far. I have at least 1, maybe 2 more that we're going to do this fall. I'm going to travel to a school, actually install their offense for them. I don't broadcast those live. That is just for that school, but sometimes we're able to include that video here. I've already done this with 2 varsity boys programs, 1 varsity girls programs. I go and install your offense in 2 days and then kind of give you a jump start for that. We used to charge $500 for the workshop. We used to charge $500 for the installation camps. The only way to get both of those was to pay $1,000. And now we've also added this 21-day Princeton Offense Challenge. the Princeton zone offense, the one zone offense, the middle school masterclass. This is how I would run the Princeton at the middle school level, all continuity series, special Princeton offense packages. And then I've got a 21-day one defensive weight challenge where I break down all that. This is like my general basketball stuff. All of this stuff together inside this inner circle. And today you can get it. It's $47 a month for the membership. But today only, because I'm going to take this away, there is actually a 7-day free trial. I did not have time to switch the tech over to charge you $47 right away. So you can actually join this for free, 100% free today for 7 days. You can cancel. If you cancel on day 6 at minute number 59, and I have time to cancel it, you will not get charged. You'll just lose access. So you can actually try all this membership for free. You can actually go watch previous installation camps right now for free. And at the end of the 7 days, you'll get charged $47 and then $47 a month after that. And if we have the clinic in 2 weeks or in 4 weeks or in 5 weeks, you get to attend that clinic for free. Okay, or I'm sorry, for the $47. As for being a member, you get to come to that clinic or watch the replay for only that $47. And then you can cancel anytime. Just email me any point in time and, hey, this was fantastic, not for me. Hey, this is fantastic, money's tight. Hey, this is not whatever. You can email anytime for any reason, and I will pause or cancel your membership. And if you want to keep it, here's the other thing. If you keep the membership active, you keep the replays to the clinic for as long as you keep your membership active. Okay? And just because I was going to actually have this full matchup zone course ready, and I didn't like the timing because I also wanted to do the clinic, and I don't want to sell a matchup zone, and then the timing just didn't work out. I didn't want to be asking too much. So what I did instead was this offer. So if you guys would like to either come to the next Princeton Offense Clinic, it's either going to be live in person or we also stream those live online, virtually. Or we'll do a produced replay of previous clinics where I will cut and paste all of my favorite stuff in there. It might be more than 12 to 14 hours. And you will be able to access both of those with full replays as long as you're an active member. Okay? I do not, because I haven't planned this out exactly, I don't know when I'm going to close this offer down. Probably next Sunday at the absolute latest. So if you guys get in today or get in early this week, I'll email you guys tomorrow and this week about what's going on with this. You guys, so have it all on paper as I'm rambling here, moving into an hour and a half. But when I close this offer down, the only way to attend the clinic will be whatever we're charging the clinic for. It's either going to be $97, $147. Those are usually our early bird prices. $247 we usually sell these at $247 at regular price. We sell a lot of them with early bird, but then this is a more expensive event to kind of put on. There's a lot more cost involved with this, a lot more risk for me. Plus it's a lot of time. Plus it's a lot of value for you. So hopefully even at the $247, it's worth it. But if you guys want to try out the Inner Circle, this is the last. After this week, I'm taking the free trial away, probably until January, February. So the free trial is going to go away. And if you get in today, you can participate in this clinic for just $47. Is that cool? The email address or the website address is theprincetonoffense.com/all access. And I'll type that in the chat here. If someone else is faster than me typing in the chat, that would be great. .com/all access. And at any point, if you guys have any questions at all, and by the way, when I finish the matchup zone, this full course, it'll probably be a 6 or 8 hour course when it's all said and done. I probably already have about 4 hours recorded. By the time I have all the video done and all the breakdowns and that, it goes into the membership. So just for being a member, you get access. You're going to have access to this matchup zone, and there's actually some video already in there. But you will actually have access to all of this for free just for being a member of the Inner Circle. If that sounds good, give me a thumbs up. If you guys are interested or if you guys have questions, I'll answer any questions you have. We've been on here for an hour and a half. I did not plan on going this long. Charles, I appreciate it. So theprincetonoffense.com/all access. You guys join the Inner Circle. It's free for 7 days. And then $47 will be charged on day 7. And then $47 will be charged every 30 days after that. Okay, and you can cancel anytime. You can participate in the next clinic for just $47. Again, I've never sold this even at all the other early bird prices. This clinic has never gone for less than $147. But my life is kind of crazy right now, and I kind of want to get as many. The goal is ultimately get as many coaches as possible to these clinics and really kind of help change the game. That's kind of our mantra is what we're trying to, really the main goal is really kind of change the game. So if you guys have any questions, email me, coach@hoopsindetail.com. I will email everyone this link and more details about this written on paper, so you don't have to listen to me ramble. Coach Scott Tenchka, text me. Send me a text. Let's hop on the phone because I want to follow up with you on some things. And if any coaches, by the way, that are still here that are interested in having me come to your school to actually work with you directly in person, email me, coach@hoopsindetail.com. Okay? Very cool. theprincetonoffice.com/all-access. This is basically everything. You get everything that if you bought everything on there, you would pay more than, you would legit for one-off pay more than $1,500 for you get access to for free for 7 days and then $47 a month. Okay? Guys, have any questions, email me. If you're in the Facebook group, if you're in the Facebook group, you can message me on Facebook as well. Have any questions, let me know. Coach Tenchka, shoot me a text real quick, and then I will email out the replay if anyone wants to watch the replay of actual X's and O's on the boards. And if you have more questions about the matchup zone specifically, email those to me. I would love to get your thoughts. All right? Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it, and I will talk to you soon.